Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel once again. And trust me, I know it's been a long time. I think it's been a little over a year. But to tell you the truth, I just had to take a little bit of a break from YouTube. Just wasn't really feeling it anymore. Really was a struggle to convince myself to make a video. And you know what? It's not my job, so I figured if I didn't want to do it, I wasn't going to do it just for the sake of doing it. So I know I follow a ton of YouTube channels that when one of my favorite YouTubers goes on a little bit of a hiatus, it does suck. I know I've been in your shoes many times, but to tell you the truth, I just couldn't really convince myself to do it. But I am back today, and it's not like I haven't been reading for the past year. I still have been reading, so I have accumulated quite a few novels. So at least today I got to choose from some of the better novels that I read over the past year, which is a bonus. And firstly, before I get into it, I just want to say thank you to all the people that somewhere along the way this year sent me messages just really genuinely asking if I was okay, because I know when someone disappears like that, you just never really know these days what's going on. So thank you for that, and everything's good, as you can see, and let's get into some novels that I read over the last year. All right, so first up, I want to talk about a book called The Hellfire Club by Peter Straub. No correlation to the season 4 of Stranger Things Hellfire Club D&D group they had there. But this novel was outstanding. I started with this one because it was honestly one of my favorite novels that I read over the past year. To be honest with you, the twists and turns in this book were outrageous. It just kept flipping itself on its head. Just when you thought you had it figured out, it would make a quick turn. Just an absolute page turner, entertaining from start to finish. Peter Straub, this book has convinced me to read all of Peter Straub's library. Like, I will now read all of his books. I just think, next to King, he is one of the better horror writers for sure. Plot wise, bear with me because like I said, these books were over the past year, so some of them I read quite a while ago. But I guess in a nutshell, it follows Nora was the name of the main character, a woman whose husband basically was a part of like this big literary family, publishing. They worked with a publishing house, and one of their bigger novels, it was a series. There was some sort of mystery revolving around this novel and who wrote it. So we're basically trying to unravel a mystery of, is this author should he be genuinely famous, or was it plagiarized in some way, and was there someone who should be getting the credit that is now not getting the credit, and with some sinister motives going on behind it, and kind of unraveling a mystery of events that happened in the past. Like I said, this is an action-packed novel with tons of twists and turns. If you like mysterious thrillers, then this is the one for you. I highly recommend this book. Okay, next up is another known author that I've talked about on this channel a few times, Nick Cutter, and this book is Little Heaven. Another one that easily top book that I read over the past year. This one I got through super quick. This one revolves around a religious cult that kind of lives on its own in the woods, trying to, escape society and make their own society and live by their own rules. Usually when you hear a plot like that, it doesn't usually end too well. A pretty common horror trope, but I find sometimes these books are the creepiest to me because you're just dealing with people that have completely lost their minds, and when there's no reasoning with someone, that's sometimes one of the scariest situations you could be in. But a little more into the plot, there is like a supernatural element to this as well. On the surface, it may be the whole cult thing in the woods, but there definitely is a supernatural element to it. Without giving away too much more, you have enough to chew on there. I think Nick Cutter's a great author of The Troop. That's probably his most well-known book, but this one I've recommended to a few people since I read it, and again, highly entertaining. Little Heaven, I just don't think you can go wrong. A really well written novel as well by Nick Cutter. He's got a new novel coming out this year, which I think will be his 4th full-length novel, which I'm excited for. Okay, next up, Katrina Ward, one of my favorite modern-day authors for sure, and she is an enigma, let me tell you that much. This one's called Looking Glass Sound, and this was number 5 for me, and literally it was the tiebreaker because 2 of them I absolutely hated, 2 of them I absolutely loved, and this one came out on the right end of it. I loved this book, a page turner, and again, when you're talking about twists, oh boy, this one definitely gets you looking one way, and you got to read it for yourself to see exactly what it does to you. But yeah, plot-wise, I did read this one quite a few months back. So I think to explain the plot, I'm just going to read quickly the synopsis on the inside jacket here. Okay. It is the story about the sun-drenched summer days of his youth in Whistler Bay and the blood-stained path of the killer that stalked his small vacation town. About the terrible secret he and his companions, Nat and Harper, discovered entombed in the coves off the bay, and how the pact they swore that day echoed down the decades, forever shaping their lives. But the more Wilder writes, the less he trusts himself and his memory. He starts to see things that can't be real, notes hidden in the cottage from an old friend now dead, a woman with dark hair drowning in the icy waters below, calling for help. Entire chapters he doesn't recall typing, appearing overnight. Who or what is haunting Wilder? No longer able to trust his own eyes, Wilder begins to fear that this will not only be his last book, but the last thing he ever does. So, as you can tell there with the synopsis, it's a very mysterious novel. It's a novel that jumps from time period to time period. So one of those things where it's kind of filling in the blanks in different time periods to complete the puzzle as you go, which is always a format that I find really entertaining and a fast read. It was one of those that you just really wanted to, you knew something was brewing and you wanted to get to the end as quick as you could. So Katrina Ward, once again, if you read about any of her other ones, I think you're gonna like this one for sure. Okay, now I'm going to talk about a duology by James Herbert. So the first one was called Haunted. The second one was called The Ghosts of Sleeth, but we'll get to that one in a sec. So this is a really short, quick novel you could read. And if you like the whole haunting, a paranormal activity type thing, Haunting of Hill House obviously is the one that jumps to mind quickly. This book is, both of them are so good. We'll get to the second one in a sec, but these were my first James Herbert experiences, and I found the atmosphere in these novels were second to none. He really did a great job painting the whole small town, really creepy. It's set in the UK and England, I believe. So yeah, just unbelievable. Really spooky reads that probably would be great for the Halloween season if you're into really getting in the mood in October. So basically, this book is about our main character, who is like someone who works with mediums, but he is someone who doesn't believe in the paranormal. So he really uses his expertise, problem-solving skills in order to debunk hauntings. So he gets called on a job to this mansion who is inhabited by 3 children and a nanny, basically, and the children's parents have died. And so he's trying, they claim there's a lot of paranormal stuff going on in this mansion. And that's all I'm going to tell you, because this case that this guy's on is crazy, and it's super creepy. And I put this up there with any haunting novels for sure. So The Ghosts of Sleeth is the next book in this duology, the second book, and it follows our same main character after his experiences in Haunted, I think like maybe a few years later or so, maybe a year later. And he's basically, on another case, but this case takes him to Sleeth, which is a town, a very small town, out in the middle of nowhere. They're not really around any sort of major cities or anything like that. And this time, instead of the haunting being a house, it's this entire town is claiming that there are creepy things going on all around town. So this is obviously a case for him on a larger scale. And as you can see, this book is a lot longer. And again, the atmosphere was great. Just did a great job painting that whole small town Britain type feel to it. And yeah, this one is a ride for sure. Again, like any books like this, twists and turns. I would say it's a horror, thriller, mystery all wrapped into one. And if you haven't checked out James Herbert, check him out. Outstanding author, great writer, and yeah, for all you avid horror fans out there, give this one a try. All right, so the next one I'm going to talk about is a short story anthology by Dan Simmons. And the reason why I usually don't talk about short story anthologies too often on my channel, they're hard because, you know, you can't talk about every story. You can kind of just talk about a few of them that really did jump out at you. But the reason why I'm talking about this one is because obviously Dan Simmons is one of my favorite authors, and I will be reading all of his books one day. But this one really was almost a love letter to his avid readers, because there was a lot of drawbacks to full-length novels and almost like borderline quasi-sequels to novels as well. So just a few that if you've read them, yeah, this would be worth checking out. So Remembering Siri was a story that basically takes place in the same universe as his these ones here, the Endymion, Hyperion, that quadrilogy there. So that series, that sci-fi series, which I definitely want to reread really soon. I've been craving getting back into that one. So that was a story in there. If you've read that series, you're going to want to check that out. Carry On Comfort is the last story, and that's actually a prequel. That's right. So Carry On Comfort was obviously a very large novel that he wrote, and this is where that novel started. There was a short story in this novel called this by the same name, Carry On Comfort. I always say Carry On Comfort. I think it's Carry On Comfort. Anyways, yeah, so that was a prequel to that novel, and if you loved that novel, you got to check it out, because like I didn't even know it existed until I looked at the table of contents in this, saw the name and looked into it, and yeah, it was really cool to kind of read where that whole story stemmed from, just how big that story was. So yeah, this had a bunch of good stuff, but those are just a couple that I figured I'd relate back to his other novels. All right, and lastly, I have a couple here that were sent to me, some indie authors, I guess. They were sent to me by the authors themselves. They reached out to me over email, asked me if I wanted to check out their books, and they were nice enough to send me a copy. I told them they review it. I really do apologize that, you know, I went on this hiatus and I didn't get around to making a video, but I promised you I would. So I did read them, and I did enjoy them both. The first one was In Death She Pleads by Jeremiah Link. So Jeremiah, thank you for sending me this. This book was outstanding. It was beautiful. And I don't use that word often for horror novels. I think the last time I described a horror novel as being beautiful, it was Frankenstein, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. And I felt the same way right now. I'm not comparing Jeremiah here to Mary Shelley, but I mean, kudos to him. He wrote a beautiful, dark, gothic novel, you could even say. And yeah, if you guys can pick this up, to look into it, Google his name. If you guys can pick this up, it's a quick read, a short one, but it was really good, really nice novel. And Another Kind of Devil is the name of this last one here by N.B. Clark. Once again, NB, thank you for sending this to me. And another one I really did enjoy. This one was a lot of fun. It didn't take itself too seriously, but also it was a horror novel. Like, it was gory and it was dark in its own ways. But I kind of think about, if you ever seen the movie Little Monsters with Fred Savage back in the day, and like Howie Mandel, where there was kind of that world under his bed, and all these monsters were living in it. It was their own little world. That's kind of the feel I had of this, but with instead of monsters, it was like demons and hell itself, and like hell being basically this like inhabitable world, and we follow a demon here that kind of makes his way back up into our world here, and has to figure things out for himself about how we live. So it was interesting, it was unique, and yeah, definitely worth a check out. All right, everyone. Well, thank you for being patient with me. If you're still here, thanks for watching this video to the end. I do want to apologize once again for taking a year off, but I had to do me. So I feel refreshed now. I feel like I can get back into doing this again. I had fun doing this video tonight with you guys. And yeah, I mean, again, thank you to all my subscribers. You guys have still been subscribing, even though I haven't been posting videos, and not unsubscribing, which is even more important, I guess. So, thanks again. Love you all. Happy reading. And hopefully we'll talk to you guys very soon.